Welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast. Please be advised that the presenters may use adult language and/or discuss adult situations. This podcast is not intended for younger listeners or those that may be easily offended. So, if you're ready, let's go.
Hi, I'm Greg.
Hey, I'm Karen.
And welcome to the Scary Spirits Podcast presents Reviews, where we review a horror film which is either recently streaming or is currently in theaters. How are you, Karen?
I'm excellent. How are you, Greg?
Awesome. I'm not awesome. I'm good.
Yes, you are. You're awesome.
No, it's awesome that you're excellent, but I am good.
Okay. So we're not a match.
No, we're not a match. Already starting off on the wrong foot, Karen.
We're hardly ever a match. This is par for the course.
Karen, what film are we reviewing today?
We both watched The Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yes, we did, Karen. Released the 11th. And I plan on releasing this episode, Karen, on the 20th. So it's been out a week or more, 10 days.
Well, hopefully it's still around. Yeah.
Well, we can talk about that, Karen. Might you have a brief synopsis for us?
I do.
Go on. Tell us a story.
The crew of the merchant ship Demeter set sail from Carpathia to London to deliver a cargo of 50 unmarked wooden crates. However, they soon discover they're not alone as Dracula's unholy presence turns the trip into a nightmarish fight for survival.
Thank you, Karen. We are a match on the synopsis.
Yay. It's accurate.
Yes, it is. So, Karen, did you see this
in a theater? Yes.
During the bargain matinee early matinee with all the other blue hairs?
With my special AARP discount?
Yes.
I did.
My wife and I went and saw it on a Saturday. The Saturday after it came out. It had only been out one day when we went and saw it. And we went to an earlier showing. I mean, it wasn't lunchtime, but it was it was early enough so that when we left, it was time for dinner.
I'm just frugal.
How many people were in the theater with you when you saw it, Karen?
2.
And you saw it midweek, early in the day, right?
Yes.
So it was 3 people total. We saw it, like I said, the Saturday after it was released, and there were 7 other people in the theater besides us. So there were 9 people in my theater.
It's not encouraging.
No, it's not. And I was wondering, I'm like, should I be worried for the movie industry? It seems to be every time I go to the movie, there's no one freaking there, Karen.
To be fair, when we were younger, we would go to the movies on Fridays and Saturdays nights. Yes. We avoid that now. As a younger person, I never went to the movies on Tuesday at lunchtime. So I don't know if that's a huge decline or not, because I don't have anything I think numbers are down in general, but I don't have anything to compare it to.
Right.
I will say I went alone, and you were making fun of me because I thought it was
Karen.
No, not about that. It's because these movies scare me. The startles get me and everything. But I was wondering, because you said you aren't scared. Is there ever a movie that you watched where you were scared?
I think we've talked about this already, Karen.
Well, I don't remember because
the one movie I went to and had to leave early back in 1976, Karen.
What was it? The Exorcist?
Jaws?
Yeah. Well, that's not the same. Okay.
It is the same.
Sort of, but that's not paranormal. I guess I'm asking, is there ever a paranormal film? That could happen. You could get attacked by a great white shark in the ocean.
Yeah, I believe we've talked about this too. I mean, the only other film that comes to mind where it freaked me out was The Silence of the Lambs.
But again, that's real.
Okay.
So basically,
I don't know what
Dracula,
kind of criteria you're putting on movie
I
watching.
said paranormal, Greg. Pay attention.
Okay, then no.
Okay.
None.
The Silence of the Lambs is very real. That's probably more real than Jaws is.
Yeah, it is. But I enjoy paranormal,
Well, obviously, or we wouldn't have this podcast. Just wondering if you had to go see this by yourself, if it would have shaken you up a little bit.
No, I'd laugh and laugh. Just
even the zombie films don't get to you.
No.
Night of the Living Dead, any of that. Even
I didn't see those in the theater, but I saw
the
World
thought
War
process.
Z. No.
You don't think about it afterwards, like, wow, what if that was real or something? No. Okay.
No.
Well, okay. Again, I overthink it.
I had nightmares about Harry Potter when the big snake was in it, just because I don't like snakes.
All right. As long as you're having nightmares, that's fine.
Did you get popcorn and snacks?
I did get a popcorn.
Some good and plenty's.
No, I just got popcorn.
Did you get a small popcorn, or did you go for the big bucket?
No, I got a small. I do treat myself if I go to the movies by myself. I don't mind going by myself. It's actually quite relaxing. I imagine
it would be.
It's a nice getaway from every day. Kind of have a little moment to yourself,
Do you do butter on your popcorn, Karen? Or
I do not.
My wife does not. But in my theater, there's a thing where you could put some kind of crap on the popcorn yourself. And I was like, don't know what this is, but I'll try it.
The liquid oil.
Yeah, I don't know what it was.
We have to wipe your hands after you eat the popcorn.
It's finger licking good, Karen.
Yes, exactly.
Unfortunately, I did not start eating my popcorn until the film started. Otherwise, it would have been gone by the time the film started, because my wife, she was done. We both got a small. She was done before the film even started. Bag was gone because of the previews.
My youngest and I, we get a large popcorn. We share a drink, and we finish the large before the movie starts. We try to say, no, we're not going to, but sometimes it's warm, fresh out of the popper. Gotta have it. You gotta just go for it.
Especially if it's early in the day, Karen.
Yes. If it's the first pop of the day, golden.
What previews did you see? Anything interesting?
Not really. Okay. Although, well, there was one, Exorcist. They're kind of redoing that.
The Exorcist Believer
or something.
That
one looked creepy.
So there was a Saw X preview. Again, a lot of these were R-rated, so they had the red screen. The Creator, which I kind of thought looked interesting. Same director that did Star Wars Rogue One, and it kind of looks Star Wars-y.
Well, I was a little late, so I might have missed those.
The Exorcist Believer, just like you. The Nun 2.
Oh, yeah. That one I saw too. And I've not seen The Nun, so.
No, but it's like an Insidious thing, or it's a sequel to whatever. Or is it the Conjuring? Is it a sequel to The Conjuring?
I think it's in that family, but I don't know. It's The Conjuring because that came up on the film. That's the family of films it's in. That one looks creepy too, but that would definitely give me nightmares, having gone to Catholic school.
It's the 9th installment in the Conjuring universe. And then the other preview was Five Nights at Freddy's.
Oh, about the Chuck E. Cheese place? Yeah, I did see that too.
Of those, the only one I think I'd be interested in is The Creator.
Not the Exorcist one?
I don't know.
Looked pretty good. Looked like they were looping it back.
Yeah, it looked like almost a reimagining of the original or something.
Well, no, I think the mother from the original one is in it.
Yes, she is.
So it was a nice tie back to give it some credibility, I think.
Okay.
I think I finally did watch The Exorcist all the way through.
I never have.
I'm not sure I have. We'll have to watch it sometime and see.
Add it to the list. But the film we are covering is The Last Voyage of the Demeter. And as Karen said in her synopsis, it's Dracula's voyage from Transylvania to London.
Romania, yeah.
Carpathia, wherever that is. So this film is actually, I have my...
Oh, you have your source. You have your source material
right here. My copy of Dracula by Bram Stoker.
Nice.
So this film basically covers chapter 7. Chapter 7 in my version of the book, because
there are many versions, but I'm sure they're all chapter 7.
Yeah. Chapter 7 is like 12 pages in my book. Of that 12 pages, the log of the Demeter is 4 pages, basically, is what this film covers. The other pages in chapter 7 cover the Demeter, but it's more like newspaper headlines or a newspaper article about the Demeter, or entries from Mina's journal when she talks about the ship, you know what I mean, and the funeral of the captain and things like that.
Oh, afterwards.
Yeah.
They did say it was a Russian ship. Does Demeter mean anything in Russian?
Do not know. Yeah, it's supposedly a Russian ship, even though everyone on the crew speaks English.
Well, with heavy Russian accents, some of them.
Yes, not.
But I will
not so much.
Before we even start, and just you having said that, while I was watching it, I thought, how amazingly imaginative for someone to take that many pages from the book and make a film from it.
I agree.
I'm surprised it took this long, but when you're reading that book, you wouldn't think of that. Or, well, I wouldn't say I wouldn't think of that. And for someone to have gone through and said, hey, this could be a movie, I thought that was really impressive. You know, that somebody took that amount of source material we were just joking about, but took 4 pages basically and made a movie about it.
And that's the first thing. That's the first plus thing I wrote. The first thing I liked is I thought it was a good idea. It's because part of the story how many that's times never really been told.
Right. How many Dracula retellings have there been? So many. And
they all gloss over this part.
So I think that
even though it's a small part, but
in and of itself is amazing.
I think the voyage took like a couple weeks or some shit, didn't it? Oh, shit, I'll tell you.
I think they said a month in the movie.
So they left July 6th. I'm reading from the source material. And yeah, a month.
Why do you doubt me, Greg?
The last entry was August 4th, and then Mina's journal is August 8th. And the newspaper story is from August 8th. Yeah, from July 6th to August 8th. Basically.
So in the source material, they must know the captain's name. Do they know any other names of the crew or anything that were on it? Or was all of that imagined?
I'm just skimming right here. I mean, he just mentions how many crew, calls the mate, just says mate. Yes, he does mention one of the men, Olgarin. Oh, yeah, he is in the film as well. Without,
again, giving way too much away, they do have the captain's log at some point. That's how they would know the captain's name for sure.
I think that's pretty much it. He mentions one of the crew by name and refers to just the first mate as the mate.
That makes sense.
5 hands, 2 mates, curious. Cook, and the captain.
Oh, that's more than they had in the movie. I thought it was 3 hands because there were 5 altogether.
I'm looking at the cast and there's quite a bit. Well, do you count Toby? You know?
Not as as a past. I wasn't.
Oh, here's another one. Petrovsky went missing, Karen.
So a couple. I was just kind of wondering what they had to work with.
And there is no stowaway.
No.
All right. So yeah, that was the first thing I liked. So let's go through things we enjoyed.
Okay. We agreed on that one. You want me to go again?
Yeah, go ahead. What else did you enjoy?
I enjoyed that it was led by a man of African descent. I thought that was interesting.
So
a little unusual.
The main character, our hero, quote unquote.
Yes. And he has some struggles because of his skin color, and then, ends up being our hero.
Okay.
Let's go back and forth because you have notes and I do not. So.
Okay. I thought the acting was good.
I agree.
Especially the Liam Cunningham, who played the captain, was very good. And I liked David Makrauki. I can't even. Somebody going to try say his name. David, who played Wojciech, who was like the first mate. He was good. And I recognized him from The Dark Knight.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
Which was his first film, his first major film. And he was also he was in Gotham as well, the TV series. He was very good. All the acting was very good.
I agree. I wasn't distracted by anyone not pulling their weight.
No.
I'm always impressed when the kids are good because You see a lot of movies where they're wooden and just not as good as the adults for good reason. They don't have the experience and all of those things. There are reasons for that, but it's nice when a kid is a natural. Not only is he good, you believe the relationship between him and the captain.
Mm-hmm.
They're related. He's the grandchild. We can say he's about, I think they said 9.
You can see a connection. There is a,
yes.
You can tell.
So I thought that's always impressive to me when the kids pull their weight.
What else, Karen?
I thought the sets were good. You believed it was a ship. You didn't catch anything, at least I didn't, overly modern. It didn't rock as much as a ship would, but lights were still swinging in the background, even in scenes that were beneath the ship. So that's always a nice touch when they're trying. I
thought the vampire was very good. I liked that it was more Nosferatu, right? If that's a word. It's more creature than, it's not Bela Lugosi.
No, but I have issues with that we'll talk about later.
Okay.
I get why it has to be that in this film, and it's effective in this film for sure. I thought the cast also was believable as being a cohesive group for having just met when they came on the ship. You're not going to have brotherly love or anything but they had connection without it being.
Yeah, there's some mutual respect they all seem very good deckhands and seaworthy
but they seem to be a cohesive group as actors and characters, but as actors, they seem to mesh very well.
I'm going to say, here's something my wife said. I asked her, we were talking about it, and she said, it's hard to hate Dracula character because she says, he paid for his cargo. He paid for all 50 of those boxes. He brought food with him. Right?
True.
And then I wrote that I like that he kept the crew alive long enough, as long as he had to.
He rationed.
Yes.
I liked also the glorious sequel potential.
Yep, I wrote that down. Yeah.
At the end, I thought it was very well done.
It was well done, which leads into my next point, which I thought it was the way they made it so that it was still a derelict ship, but not everyone perished, which is kind of spoilerish, but right?
Yeah.
There is, well, of course there's sequel potential because, Dracula lives on, but
the way they did this sequel potential, I thought was exceptional. I thought the way they set it up and you could just feel it. You almost wanted it to continue right there.
Did you?
Well, I think the story definitely could continue seamlessly from there.
I think the very last scene, I would have been fine without it.
Oh, I liked it a lot. Except for one thing, I'll say what I didn't like, but I liked that scene a lot because I was thinking almost to the end, well, this is setting up a sequel very easily with how it ends. But I really liked that last scene. I'd be interested if other people didn't like it because I thought it was I walked out going, wow, I'm ready for the next, installment because of that.
Anything else you really liked?
I can't think of anything else.
Nope.
There was some excellent animal acting, but I do have a little thing to say about that too.
I have no other things I wrote down that I really liked. I do have, where you want to do things that we didn't like. Did you have any questions?
The questions kind of go in with a couple of things I didn't like.
Okay.
Well, I won't even say I didn't. It's not that I didn't like them. These were things
that's not be spoilers now.
I thought that he was a very messy eater.
Dracula?
In a way that was wasteful.
Okay.
Which adds to the gore, which is part of the gig. But if you
this Dracula is more beast than person, right?
Yes, but the way everything was done, just to me, in all the vampire things that I know and have watched, he doesn't know how long it's going to take. they said he rationed,
Oh,
and
he does. He knows how long it's going to
he
take.
does ration. But to me, it was a little bit like, wow, he was wasteful.
I mean, he only needs to get within
Yes.
flying distance.
It was distracting to me because
Although in the novel, they mention a large wolf jumping from the ship once it docked. So that was a little different.
It just seemed a little bit like sometimes, and then I'll say, without being too spoilerish, there were inconsistencies with how people were fed upon. And I don't know if that has to do with total blood loss versus something else. I don't know. But there were inconsistencies for me there.
Yeah, as well as I was watching it, I kept thinking back to conversations we've had in the past about, whether a victim turns or not.
Mm-hmm.
And I know we've talked about, well, maybe there's intent. Like, some Dracula kills in all Dracula films, and some he turns, right?
True.
So I was just thinking as I was watching it, and because I kept thinking, are they going to turn?
Or why haven't they? Or,
yes.
like there were inconsistencies for me there, which is
which
fine.
They kind of explained. So I bought it. Any other questions?
No, I will say
what you didn't like.
Well, we are talking about that's kind of something I didn't like.
Okay.
The messy feeding.
Mm-hmm. So, there's vampire lore, right?
Which doesn't come up much in this.
It doesn't.
Which is another thing that it was not something I didn't like, but they're from Romania, some of the people on the boat. And every movie we've ever seen, everyone from Romania knows the vampire lore, knows, when vampires are active, has some knowledge of how to kill them, all that stuff. Yeah. And they don't have that information.
Yeah. One of the things I wrote down, I made a note about the cross.
Doesn't work.
Doesn't seem to have much effect on him at all. He don't care.
We've seen that before, though.
Haven't seen it. It didn't touch him at all, but he wasn't cowering.
No.
At no point was Dracula cowering from a cross like Bela Lugosi would, right? Which is different. And
or
at one
Christopher
point,
Lee.
Yes. And at one point, there was the potential for running water, right? Which I kind of wondered about. Because that's more Hammer lore.
Yes.
And then there's the whole water thing. Can a vampire drown? I don't know.
Well, we've seen in Hammer they can.
Yes.
Running
water does.
So yeah, there's not a lot of vampire lore. There's a little, but there are a couple times where you're thinking, we know what to do. And I'm thinking in my head, do it. But they don't, because they don't appear to know how to kill the vampire.
At one point, I thought he might have been impaled by wood, but he wasn't. And that was near the end, too. And I'm like, well, see, here's another thing about this film. Pretty much everyone going to see it knows
the
outcome.
Answer, the ending. Yeah.
So it has to be really good, right? To
keep your interest.
Attention. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And they're not going to win. I mean, going in.
The ship arrives with no one on crew. The crew's gone, and the captain is tied to the wheel, and he's dead. That's how the novel.
And most movies. That's where that's all most movies show. If they show the captain, that's bonus.
So this is kind of why I've never seen Titanic, Karen, because I know how it ends. Right? Did you notice any audio issues?
Well, the only audio, I couldn't hear them sometimes, but I think that's because I've been to too many rock concerts.
Well, Karen, I'm preaching to the choir, sister. But
there were some times where I just missed dialogue. I had no idea.
I don't know how modern movie theaters work as far as sound and everything. They may have like a 24-track thing. I don't know. And they could change volumes on different things. Like the dialogue could be one, the music can be another volume. I don't know how much control the movie theater has, right? About the audio mix. But there were parts in this film where the music overplayed the dialogue. Like when our hero has his big like soliloquy, I heard none of it, Karen, because the music was too loud over top of what he was saying. I have no idea what he said.
Yeah, that's true. I did like the music, though. I didn't mention that as something I liked, but I really did like it.
Done by the same guy who did The Walking Dead.
It was good.
Bear McCready.
I forgot to mention that. I was going to make a note when I got home to say that, but I forgot. But yeah, the same. But again, I usually blame sitting 2 rows from the Marshall amps as the problem.
Anything
and the
else?
dog, there is a dog in the film, and I'm not going to say anything, but when the dog was barking at Dracula, tail was wagging like nobody's business. He was barking like he was menacing.
So,
but his tail was wagging.
Mean anything.
Does most of the time. So it was just funny. It's like his back end looked happy, his front end not so much. But he did a good job. I didn't see if he had a name at the end, did you?
I did not. Didn't stay for the end of the credits, Karen.
I did, and I'll say before I forget, one thing I saw was there are horse handlers because there are a couple horses in there, and right underneath that it said rat handlers. Oh, you're at a party having a little cocktail. So what do? I'm a rat handler.
We should say this. So it is, should have said this at the beginning, I guess, but it is rated R. And it lists the time listed is 1 hour, 59 minutes. About 15 of those minutes, 15 or 20 are credits. Have to be, because it was nowhere near 2 hours long. It was about.
I stayed for most of the credits. They turned the lights on, and
it was about an hour and a half, hour 40.
I don't know.
I was watching. I was watching my watch when it started, and it ended about 20 minutes before it was been 2 hours, which is fine. I think 2 hours would have been too long.
Yeah, there's only a certain amount of time you can spend on the boat, and there's only a certain number of people.
Anything else you didn't like?
Well, going back to what you said, you liked that the Dracula was more Nosferatu versus Bela Lugosi. And I get that. And on the boat, and it's plays very well, and it's exactly what it should be, and it's scary, and the way he moves. And I thought the flapping wing sounds were amazing foreshadowing, because there's a certain point where we didn't know that was going to happen, and then it does. And I'm not spoiling it. When you hear wing sounds, you're going to see that,
well, everyone
wings,
knows Dracula can fly.
Wings are apparent and present. But when
I'm pretty sure you see that in the previews and basically on the movie poster too.
But when you get into London, and at the end, he's still Nosferatu looking.
He is.
And that's cool in one way. But if you're going with the source material, if he really looks like that, he can't infiltrate society as easily as he does. And that's kind of the creepy part for me. Like, I know we've talked about it before, is that someone comes into your social circle who is evil and does all these things, but you don't know it because you're kind of overwhelmed with their glamour and their money and sophistication and everything. I liked it because I think I doubt they're going to do a sequel because of how many people were in the theater, but I wish they would. But it would be more difficult unless he started to say he was a burn victim or something to.
Yeah, he was more Nosferatu, but he was Nosferatu to another degree, another level, right? Like Nosferatu is just pale skinned. He still has his, the mouse-like features and the pointy ears and teeth.
Which I think is what he's described as in the book, isn't he?
It is, but he doesn't look as much like a monster as this Dracula does.
Yes. It was a good juxtaposition. I liked it, and I liked it for the film. I thought I know you didn't like that last scene, but I did. I thought it tied everything together and pushed us off in the right direction. But it doesn't blend with the rest of the story. So you're almost going to have to go in a different direction. Or if over time, the more he feeds, the more he becomes,
which is
I hate to use the word normal looking, but
which is the case in Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman, right?
Yes.
Or can he change whenever he wants?
No, I think he got more and more.
He got younger and younger
and yes, just more human looking.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I guess that's a way out. But for me, that was kind of that's going to cause an issue unless you fix it.
Well, you had mentioned that we had an African American hero.
Well, I don't know if he's American because was it filmed in
That's
Germany?
True. He's English. Well, he has an English accent in the movie, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he's American or not, but it was definitely African descent.
Yes. And that brings in something that I didn't like about it. That's cool and everything, but at some points it tried to be something it's not. I felt like it tried to bring in like subjects of race and things like that.
No, see, I like that. I think though,
but it's just a horror movie, you know?
Yeah, but it gives him some background.
Some depth.
Whereas the other characters don't have. But if you didn't have that backstory,
I think we all knew that there was racism, right? And that there is racism in the world, and probably even more so then. So I'm not sure that we don't need to be hit over the head.
But it explains why he's there. Because it explains why he's not in England anymore. It explains why he's in Romania.
And this is going to sound bad, but there were several times I was wondering, okay, when is one of these guys going to try to rape Anna? You know, because I'm sure that is what would have happened.
Well, they're not at sea for that long, and before horrible things start happening. So, yes, you're probably right, but at the same time, Anna
is a stowaway, so
and she's not looking good at first.
No, she's not.
And it takes a while, but there are such horrific things happening that you're probably distracted by, I don't want to be next. Versus,
but there's enough horrific things happening that if there's alcohol on board, the guys are going to start drinking too.
True, but I think she was pretty well guarded, or at least paid attention to, because he does say to the young boy, he does say, if anyone comes to visit her, you come and get me right away.
True. Yeah,
so they do set that up a little bit. She's not exactly a stowaway.
No, she's not.
But she ends up on the ship.
Yeah. Like I said, my wife
was probably the weakest link to me.
Okay.
I mean, I know she was supposed to not be healthy. So then let me ask you that.
Is she even needed?
Well, I didn't
not
really...
in the source material.
No, but it is a sort of a love interest a little bit, and sort of a way for him to be a hero and be protective. Okay. But no, not really. I didn't think.
Yeah.
Dracula certainly didn't need her.
So in Nosferatu, he brings rats with him, crates of rats, so he can feed while he's on the ship. And I got the feeling he did that. He did that as well here, but
yes, because there are rats.
One of the crates broke open and the rats got out, right?
Well, and then he ate them all because they disappear. But he would know that there's going to be crew. He just had to get close enough to. So did he really need any of that? I don't know. But he certainly didn't need her, unless she was some sort of Renfield-like person who took care of things. And when he first got to London, he would need someone like that.
Well, Renfield's already in London.
I know, but if she was doing that role in Romania and then for a couple weeks or something, I don't know.
That's not the way she describes how it went down.
No, but...
All right. Anything else didn't like?
No, I liked it.
I did too. So one of the problems I think this film has, for whatever reason, is that when I've told people about it and told them what are you going to do this weekend? I tell them, I'm going to go see the Last Voyage of the Demeter. No one freaking knows what I'm talking about, Karen.
It does have probably a niche audience, I would guess.
No one knows.
Even horror film people might not know what it is.
Yeah, we were out the other night.
It's a classic reference more than a
Monday
horror
date
reference.
Night, and one guy at the bar there, I think, heard us over talking. And he's like, "Oh, I want to see that. Is that the movie? Blah blah blah." And I'm like, "Yeah." He was the only person I've mentioned it to who knows what I'm talking. And I don't know if people don't watch TV, so they don't see the commercials, or they don't go to movies, so they don't see the previews. Because we saw the previews for this when we saw Renfield. That's when it went on my radar.
Well, it's a target audience,
right? But that's when it was on my radar, right? I was like, "Oh shit, I want to see that." You know
from the preview, it's not like you have to know what the Demeter is to understand the previews. You can guess, even if you don't know it's Dracula. The story of Dracula, you're going to see in the previews, it's a ship and people are being picked off on the ship, because they show you that in the, so if you're a horror fan, you would think that you would be interested. It's just a next level for people who know the classic story, I think. I'm surprised they didn't put it out in October.
I know, and it's weird. I was reading about it, and it was originally supposed to be released in January. Why not? Why did you do it in December? It'd be better in December than August. I don't know.
I would have tried at this point,
especially right after Barbie comes out.
It's 2 months from October. I would have started mid-September.
Yeah.
It's a month later, and it's just closer to the whole feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The revving up of the season and stuff. And I have a bad
maybe
feeling.
They didn't want to compete with The Exorcist Believer or The Nun 2 or Five Nights at Freddy's or Saw X or all these other previews. Many.
But it's a classic horror film. Maybe they were trying to get out a little before those and grab the revenue instead of splitting it.
All right. So what kind of cocktail rating would you give this film, Karen?
I think it's a strong 3.
I agree. It's a 3.
I mean, I thought it was really good.
I enjoyed it. I
didn't really have any complaints about it.
I told a guy at the bar the other night, yeah, go see it. I gave it a thumbs up.
Definitely.
I can tell you.
I think our audience for sure would appreciate it. Not just because if you know the Dracula story, there are little details that It burns. I knew exactly what that meant.
Yeah, I did too.
Even though they were like, oh, let's get him some water. Even on the film, they were playing it off. I knew immediately because I know the story. So I think for people who know the story, they're going to get little details that other people might miss.
And the effects were good, we should say.
Yes, very good. Yes.
Special effects were good. So this currently has a 51% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's it?
That's it. A 6.5 out of 10 on IMDb, but 90% of Google users like this movie.
That surprises me. I think it's a good movie. What do you think was missing for those people? I mean, there's gore, there's special effects. I guess there's no nudity.
No.
Nosferatu's nude, I think, isn't he?
But we can't tell if he's male or female.
We're just going from the source material. He looks more male, though, just from upper body.
Yeah, I thought that was low, 51%.
Yeah, I don't know what else you could have done with it. I was impressed with it.
There's such a difference, like 51%, but then 90% of people who on Google market say whether they have an opinion or not liked it. And I was one of those 90%. I clicked on, I liked it. You want to talk about the box office so far? It's only one weekend in, but
I'm a little concerned.
So this is according to Bloody Disgusting, an article I found. So it was released into about 2,700 theaters in the States, and it earned $6.5 million.
Oh, that's not terrible.
Which put it number 5 for the weekend. And they don't think that makes it not looking good for it. Because they are saying that they believe it would need to pass 100 million before it's in the black.
Oh, wow.
I read the budget wasn't 7. Well, they're saying 7 million budget, but they're thinking before Universal would consider it a success, probably it would need to make $100 million.
It didn't have any big names in it. The set was pretty. Once you get on the ship, there's only the ship, and there's only those 5 actors. They never change clothes, so it doesn't seem, it doesn't play like a low budget film. I'm not saying
it
that.
Doesn't. But it is, there is that claustrophobia feel to it and all that stuff. It's basically one set, one small group of actors.
They never change clothes. They never change hairstyles. They never, but it didn't feel like it would cost that much. No. And they didn't do a ton of advertising. I only saw it on previews. I didn't see it on TV. Well, they must not.
I don't think anybody knows about it. That's what I'm saying.
You have to go to the movies to know about this.
How were you with the needles, Karen? There were some needles in there.
There were some very unsanitary needle work in this.
Even my wife was like, that's what bothered her the most, I think.
Because they did not sterilize anything.
Nope.
That was a big ass needle he was putting in his arm.
But
so he would have.
That's why I told my wife that's the way they did it.
You know, he would have been a little weak.
They didn't know there were different blood types or anything like that.
Yeah.
Even in the source material, they're giving victims blood just willy-nilly.
Well, at least he didn't put leeches on her. He knew what needed to be done.
I do have a couple reviews, Karen.
Ooh, Critics Corner. What do you got?
So the first one is from RogerEbert.com. And it's written by Peter Sobzinski. It's from August 11th, the day it came out. And I will be paraphrasing because it's a pretty long one. So he writes, upon hearing this movie's premise for the first time, I wasn't entirely convinced it could work. This would be a film where practically every audience member would not only know exactly what the supernatural force at the center of the story is before the Universal logo hits the screen, but they would also, bearing some unexpected deviation from the well-known narrative, know exactly how the on-screen events would play out. But it turned out to be a striking take on the tale that makes up for what it lacks in surprise, with a lot of style and some undeniably effective scare moments. Film was directed by Andre Overdahl, I guess is how you say his name. And he says he's trying to figure out how to tell a story in which everyone in the audience will be ahead of the characters on the screen at virtually every given point. He accomplishes that primarily by focusing heavily on visual style, creating a moody and haunted atmosphere throughout, even during the scenes set in the daytime, that is both eerily beautiful and just plain eerie. Last Voyage of the Demeter is one of the better-looking horror films to come along in a while. The cat and mouse games between Dracula and the crew are staged in a manner that suggests a seafaring variation of Alien. The performances are all strong and convincing, which helps to raise the emotional stakes to make up for the lack of surprise. It may not be a classic in the annals of Dracula cinema along the lines of Terence Fisher's Hammer production Horror of Dracula, Werner Herzog's version of Nosferatu the Vampire, or Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula, but it is a smart, well-made, and sometimes downright creepy take on the tale that both horror buffs and regular moviegoers can appreciate in equal measure. I agree.
I thought it was really good. Do they ever mention the name Dracula? They don't, do they, in the movie? They don't identify him.
No.
As Nosferatu or Dracula. When they leave the port, there are a couple people who seem to know what it is.
They call it the dragon.
Yes, because the emblem's on the crates that they're
shipping,
moving, and people would say, I'm not doing it, and leave and things. But we never get a name.
Nope.
I think that was a copyright issue, or you just think that they avoided it on purpose?
Anna doesn't mention him. Okay.
She just mentioned that he lives there, and they
doesn't even call him Nosferatu or anything? I
don't think so, which was interesting, which could be why they don't talk about the lore so much. But I did notice that in the film too, and I didn't mention it earlier because I forgot, but I don't think they actually identify him.
Okay.
Beyond saying it's evil and the devil and all that stuff.
The next review I have is from the New York Times by Natalia Winkleman. And this one, I'm again paraphrasing, and I'm only going to read like one paragraph. It's pretty short anyway. It says, The Last Voyage doesn't waste time on characterizations. Before long, bad omens and creaky floorboards give way to repetitive, swollen set pieces as Dracula picks off the shipmates one by one. The script does find time for a feeble feminist gesture. The story's sole woman can cock a rifle. And a monologue about racism. These efforts to update the tale are about as successful as those of the sorry crew whose fates were written over a century ago. So she didn't like it so much. But I still think it's worth a watch.
Absolutely. I think if you were... First of all, I could never be on a ship that long. I think that would be horrible. One, I get motion sick. And two, how miserable would that be? To be on a ship with rats and everything for 6 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it was, a month. It would be miserable, I think. And then these horrible things start happening. And we've watched a lot of movies and thinking of like The Thing, right? So at first you have to think it's somebody else on the ship who's doing this, because of course you're not going to think it's some supernatural entity on your ship. That's not going to be the first thing you think of. Maybe you and I.
Yeah, they think they start searching the ship for stowaways immediately. Yes,
but when you don't find that, there is a little suspicion on the one stowaway, but she's so weak she couldn't possibly do it. So these people don't know each other.
There is a little pointing fingers. Just very little.
A little, but I think there would be a lot more of it.
Probably.
And that's one thing that I thought was missing a little bit, was the suspicion of the others, because they're not, even throughout, even when it starts to become more violent and more violent, I don't know when your mind goes until they see it and they get glimpses of it. And once everybody's had a glimpse, then they're kind of like, okay, we're fighting something different. But I felt like your first reaction, or mine anyway, would be it's one of you fuckers.
What about him? He don't look right to me. Get him up against the wall.
Or everybody stay in their room or whatever. I mean, it's impossible because you have to take shifts on the ship and all that. But I don't know. I just thought that suspicion level should have been a little bit higher until it was a little more formed as to what was happening.
Yeah. So as I said, I would suggest giving it a watch, and I would also suggest seeing it in a theater before it's gone.
Absolutely.
Because the sound and everything, you may have a, surround sound and all that bullshit in your cave, but it's not the same.
No, I definitely enjoyed it.
I did too. Anything else, Karen?
Go to the theater and please drink responsibly.
Yes.
Hey, it's Karen, and I'm here to talk to you about getting social with us. Did you know you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at Scary Spirits Podcast? Or check out our website, scaryspirits.com. If you have something to say, email us at info@scaryspirits.com. And as always, thanks so much for listening. Please drink responsibly.